Okay, trig equations. We know this is an equation because of the equal sign, and we're asked for what is not a solution. It's helpful to go ahead and find that solution. The thing that you need to be careful about anytime you are working with a squared and you're taking a square root is to make sure, especially with the fraction, to take the square root of the top and bottom and make sure that you use plus and minus there. So this is cosine of x equals plus and minus square root of 1 over square root of 4. So positive and negative 1/2. So cosine is 1/2, positive or negative, at the thirds. So you have to be careful and make sure you capture this is not a solution part. So all of the thirds are solutions. Which means that 5 pi over 6 is not a solution. The next problem can be pretty time consuming because you're looking for which one does not have real number solutions. So you kind of have to solve every problem. So what I would do for the sake of speed when working on this semester exam is to kind of see what looks reasonable to start. The first thing I would do is kind of just, I guess, start in whatever order you would like. I'm going to look at A first. So sine squared minus 4 equals 0. That means sine squared equals 4. So sine equals plus or minus 2. And it was nice for this one that you're given that one first, because that's actually your answer. Remember, our values for cosine and sine can only be between 0 and 1. All of our values, all of those fractions on the unit circle are between 0 and 1. Well, negative 1 and 1. So this is our solution. But let's look at the rest and make sure that we do have real solutions everywhere else, or at least a real solution everywhere else. There are some problems on the exam that are select all that apply, and there are problems on the ACT that can be written as, which one of these has no real number solutions, and your answers possibilities could be like A and B or A and C. So for part B, we're going to add 1 to the other side. Take the square root, and we know we have good solutions there. So sine is positive 1 at pi over 2 and negative 1 at 3 pi over 2. Remember, anytime you're solving an equation, you do not want to divide. So instead of subtracting the sign over and dividing here, we want to factor. Anytime you think divide, make sure you factor instead. And also remember, when you're factoring, especially with the GCF, that however many terms you started with, that's the number of terms you need in your parentheses. So for this equation, we would have sine is equal to 0. And from in the parentheses here, we'd have sine is equal to negative 1. And that gives us 3 solutions actually. Sine is 0 at 0 and pi. And sine is negative 1 at 3 pi over 2. So that's a good one as well. Last one to look at. Again, we're going to factor out a sine. Here we're only going to have one good solution. We have sine of x equals 0 from the outside. And we have sine of x equals negative 5 from the inside. So that piece does not give us a solution, but this one does. So there is only one answer to this problem, which is the following: has no real number solutions. Just be careful, because plus and minus 2 could be answers if you were working with cosecant, or if you were working with secant. But with sine, we don't have any values there. All right. let's look at one more. I guess we can do both of these. So here we're solving between 0 and 2 pi. We can do both of these little equations, and well, this first one we can do in 2 steps. We're going to subtract radical 2 from both sides. Just getting the sine of x all by itself, using order of operations carefully. And divide both sides by 2. So sine is negative radical 2 over 2 at fourths. Sine is negative. See, all students take calculus. So sine is positive where everything is positive and where sine is positive in the second quadrant. So we're looking for our fourths in the third quadrant, in the fourth quadrant. Our fourth in the third quadrant is 5 pi over 4, and our fourth in the fourth quadrant is 7 pi over 4. Just be careful on the exam that you get the right quadrants going there. It's worth the, it's worth the 20 seconds to write the little diagram if you need to. For number 8, we're looking for where secant is 2, and secant kind of hurts my head, so I'm going to flip that fraction. Secant's 2 over 1, where cosine is 1/2. It's much easier for me to work with cosine. So cosine is 1/2 at thirds. And again, I'm going to be careful with my quadrants. Cosine is positive in quadrants 1 and quadrant 4. So pi over 3 is good. And in quadrant 4, my third is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 pi over 3. All right, the next video will have a couple more trig equations for you.